We have another commentary done by Diggity. Upper left hand corner, we got Semih starting as the red Protoss. Bottom right hand corner, we have Stryker starting as the blue Protoss. This is on Neo Dark Origin, and it is game 2 between Semih and Stryker of the upper bracket of Starcon 2024 in Seattle. Should be a fun match altogether. Game 1, Semih did really well. He had a really, honestly, there was kind of that one, if you didn't see game 1, long macro game cross position on Citadel. And Semih was, if he had just reacted 1 or 2 minutes earlier and started locking down and transitioning to robotics, just a smidge of a fraction of a time, like 1 or 2 minute period, which is a really hard read as Protoss to recognize that scenario. But I think if he had transitioned just a little bit earlier to locking down some of the exterior bases, I have a feeling he would have taken that game out of Stryker's hands. And that's a statement, because Stryker is just a viciously strong, good opponent. And one of the things that makes Stryker so solid is just, first of all, people will say time and time again how solid his build orders are, but also his game instinct and his macro and his unit positioning are just absolutely solid, all of which was in display last match. And it made it, it made it for a very intense match and very clean StarCraft. Looks like we're seeing a Forge opener here from Semih to start. He did go double cannon to start. That slowed him down a little bit. We'll see if he plays as conservatively in this match. And I'm thinking the double cannon was just respect to Stryker. It looks like we're seeing an overpool, by the way, from Stryker to start, wanting to not have to deal with the gateway. There kind of been a little bit of a shift of meta, where just 11 hatch versus the gateway openers has just been consistent. Now it feels like Zerger over it, and they want to go for the overpool instead. Stryker, noticing he wasn't going to be able to get the hatchery up in time, should also be a signal to Stryker, to Semih. Immediate move to go ahead and grab the third base, which again suggests, I'm not sure if this is just meta or just something the Zerg here on location have been more interested in doing, but it seems like 3 hatch before gas is becoming very popular, potentially because of the extra larva and the economic flexibility it gives you. That does give you more larva on the ground. Also, to produce into Zerglings, you don't have to worry about larva blockades across the bases. So Semih double checking, making sure that that natural expansion was in fact capped. Going to make his way back down, and let's see if he holds or continues. He's in the meantime dropped the Nexus. He's got a cannon morphing behind this, is backing up a little bit. And it looks like he is gonna swing back around, try to keep those Zerglings somewhat occupied. I'm curious if he's gonna try to make a dive towards that natural expansion. There is a way where you could just make his way this direction, go south, and try to hit there, but now it's going to be a bit too late. But he will be able to confirm the third hatchery. It looks like the gas was plopped down before that third hatchery, though, so it's not going to be 3 hatch before gas. It is in fact going to be extracted first. I didn't get the timing on that extractor though, and I'm not so skilled a commentator / player where I can look at it and be like, okay, that was, I should look at the build time of an extractor. I think it might be something around like 25 seconds, and which puts it down to the 230 mark, which makes the possibility of early Zergling or early Hydralisk in large numbers a little bit more likely, depending on which direction Stryker takes the tech. Maybe he just wants to make sure he gets a little bit earlier, whatnot. A little bit of a late transfer here from Semih, so that natural expansion's up. He's got that cybernetics core and that assimilator warped in. He also has that gateway along that edge. Still has not, I want to comment on this, still has not produced a zealot. And that actually might hurt him a little bit. So I think he was trying to save this. So he went cybernetics core before zealot, I think in an attempt to speed up Corsair tech. Zergling's also blockading this just to make sure, and it is going to be a tech to layer, so layer about halfway complete. That might be just to get more information with the initial Corsair, but what this also does is it puts Semih in a much more defensive situation here early in the game. He's not going to have a glut of zealots to push out in the earlier mid-game. I will say though, in a push towards let's see if he moves to High Templar, he's dropping the Citadel of Adun, interestingly enough, at the natural expansion. So Stryker, did Stryker spot that is the next question. It looks like he did not spot that. So Stryker, well, okay, repositioning. Let's see, I keep clicking the wrong thing. Let's see if he's going to be able to get eyes on it. He sees the Nexus. You see that this is actually going to be critical. So 3 bases up, Spire on the way. Does he see the edge of it? No, he doesn't see any of the tech right now. He sees that something's building there. I don't know if he got a click off on what's there on the corner though, so I'm not sure if he recognizes that there was a potential Stargate in the midst of this. And man, was there a skip of Stargate actually? This might be a disaster actually. Okay, so probe's been wiped out. Spire is about halfway finished. This isn't too late, but we're seeing a Gateway Flood and no Corsair. And Stryker is one of those players that will go for a kill. He'll build a bunch of Mutalisks and go for an absolute swat in the early game. +1 weapons, about 1/3 finished, by the way. So we'll see if Stryker opts to play this more passively. He has dropped a 4th hatchery in the space of this. But right now, Semih going completely skipping Stargate. And we'll see if Stryker's able to capitalize on that or not. 8 Zerglings on the front. We've got 3 Zealots, which is plenty actually to deal with it with an additional Zealot on the way. 2 Gateways going in, now a Stargate on a very long delay though. The Spire is already complete and we already got Mutalisks constructing. So this could be game over potentially, depending on where Stryker goes with these Mutalisks and if we get defensive cannons in a preventative stance here. But Zealot leg speed and +1 weapons is going to be out here. The Zealots could march out and buy some time to get that initial. Oh, double Stargate is a follow-up. Okay. So was there +1 weapons queued up though? No +1 weapons. Oftentimes you'll see this, but with +1 weapons kind of hidden on that cybernetic score in the upper left-hand corner. And unless it started and I just missed it, which I don't think I did. So Semih marching out. This is a way to kind of compensate. So you march those Zealots out, you start scattering them on the map, and you basically kind of do the rapid split all over the place. And now the Zealots end up becoming the target of the Mutalisks rather than something else. Nice split there from Semih, marching, it looks like several, and actually going to get some economic disruption here as well. So good job. 2 actually making their way into the main, and all sorts of Zerglings that have been constructed to try to deal with this, and they're going all the way into the main and scattering all over the place. So we got 3 Zealots here to the north, and Semih doing a fantastic job. Stryker doing a pretty good job of defending as well, though. So he did go for the initial Mutalisk investment. He might get caught off guard by how quickly the amount of Corsairs are able to produce. No +1 weapons, just wanted to make sure you didn't sneak the +1 weapons in the midst of that. More Zealots marching on the map into the darkness, but now the Mutalisks starting to make their way out. There are cannons defensively up, so Semih buying himself some time with that. And critically though, Stryker is holding right now, maybe because he's worried about the Zealots marching down, and the Zealots are going to be able to march in. He's just going to the natural expansion, see the Citadel of Adun there, but still hasn't confirmed double Stargate in the midst of this. He's still in the dark. He doesn't know the Corsair count. Sunken Colony gone. Drones trying to defend themselves. Beautiful drone drill right there. The Zealots getting absolutely scattered, but still decent economic disruption. Stryker again having to pull the drones off this third, and not in the economic position potentially he wanted to be in. And now we have an opportunity here with, okay, we're going to see the 5 Corsair. We are going to see up to 6 Corsair. The Corsair potentially can move out in the map and create a lot of havoc potentially as well, because I don't see a Hydralisk Den okay, never mind. There's the Hydra Den and some Lurkers, +1 weapons about halfway finished, but we don't see any Hydralisks out on the map. And right now Stryker has no idea that Semih has invested fairly heavily into Corsairs. And as soon as it looks like he's going to go out with 7, which is, so 5 is usually the count where they start hitting pretty hard. 7, very hard, and the timing absolutely the worst for Stryker. Makes his way into the main and absolutely gets his Mutalisks obliterated. Doesn't even have time to get a really solid split, and these 2 are going to make their way back right, so they're completely gone. The Zealots are marching their way across the map. There are still some Zerglings on the ground, but Semih now has a big Zealot fleet that can sit out of the range of that Sunken Colony. A couple Scourge have been produced, but the Overlord's already starting to get shredded, so we got several of them down. The Scourge getting wiped out as well. There are some Hydralisks on the ground, but the Zealots are making this way to go ahead and disrupt that. A couple Zerglings making their way forward to intercept or maybe delay it. But this is starting to turn into a terrible match for Stryker, getting completely caught off guard by this air swap. He's very shortly going to be in the red. So now in the red, massive supply lead for Semih. There are, of course, the Hydralisks trying to do whatever they can, but they still have 5 Hydralisks. It looks like a spore colony emergency built to keep it alive. Zealot's still making it into the main, and yet another Overlord. Man, the Overlords got absolutely obliterated. 21 supply left, and more Overlords at risk. The Zealots getting distracting the Hydralisks, so even more damage now. That was a huge economic sink, and a Dark Templar is making his way in on location. Finally, some of the Corsairs getting cleaned up, but more drones getting killed at the third. And Semih with a brilliant play here, absolutely devastating Stryker. Absolutely devastating. He can easily go ahead and grab his third. The only thing I can fault him for is he could have walked out and take the third in the midst of all this, and so that will be slightly delayed. But still, he's done so much damage at this stage. He's at double the supply. Keep in mind, a good portion of that is in Corsairs. But regardless, on top of everything else, Overlord Speed still... Okay, Overlord Speed looks like it's finally finished in the midst of this, but wow, that was a lot of damage from Semih. Okay, High Templar making their way out. Pretty good macro behind this. 4 gateways queued up. We do have Templar Archives, as we've seen with the High Templar out in the field, as Corsairs making their way back and just kind of viewing absolutely everything. And I don't know that Stryker has enough of... he's got a handful of Hydralisks. I don't think he has enough to really deal with what's out in the field here from Semih either. Although he has kept up with the upgrade. So he's got +1 weapons. He's going to have +1 Carapace and not 2... Well, actually, take that back. Looks like +1 armor is going to finish a little bit ahead. So the upgrade battle is about even. And these 4 Corsairs still active out in the field. I want to see if I can click an individual. 5-4. Look at all the kills on these Corsairs. Holy cow. Absolutely brutal. Looking like snow Corsair kill counts right there. So Observer starting to get constructed. Some Scourge making their way out, hoping to find something. Unfortunately, they're just gonna... Well, I was gonna say they're gonna donate gas, but able to sneak right back out. Zerglin kind of checking things out. But this is gonna be 3 bases. Another Overlord getting spotted. Dark Templar is gonna get cleaned up as the Overlords make their way to the mid-map position. The Scourge trying to scurry down here. One of them... Okay, that's not the damaged ones. Fortunately for Stryker, so he might be able to get something done right here. Let's see if the Corsair are actually going to try to stay and fight. They lose 1 of their numbers, but still insane amounts of damage. And this is more Scourge that are being built. And honestly, so usually Corsair is a problem where it's like, okay, the Protoss has to invest, but right now, because Stryker having to invest even further into Scourge, and the Corsair is going to see this base at the 3 o'clock, which is certainly going to mobilize Semih. This is very ambitious from Stryker. I think he was just hoping that would not get scouted. So a lot of gas, a decent amount of supply going into the Scourge overhead. And now Semih can just walk up that 3 o'clock. Yeah, cancel right there from Stryker. He's going to be relegated to sitting on some bases. He's going to try to hold. Looks like he's getting some... He feels like he's got a... Maybe this is kind of the desperation shot here. He's got some Mutalisks, and I think he's hoping he can kind of do the reverse that Semih did to him and build a sizable enough Mutalisk force to strike. The problem is you do have Psystorm still in the midst of this, and you have this base bearing down. He's going for the counterattack. If it goes into exchange territory here, I think Semih ends up in the better position. We'll see. Yeah, just everything storming down. More Overlord's going to get killed in the main. Semih completely catching Stryker as he was going for a counterattack. High Templar, however, going to get caught mid-map. They need to turn and drop those Psystorms, though, in the space of this. 2 Zealots also making their way back. Semih wiping out. He's just going to leave a handful of Zealots and pull the rest of his attack force back. Still has some more troops fielding. The Mutalisks eating some free damage on that cannon line front. It looks like this is an interesting situation for both players. You can see where Stryker is looking to turn and bear on the larger portion of the army, wants to have it cohesive where it's happening, and Stryker wants to go ahead and attack because of the damage that happened earlier. Some Zealots still running mid-map, and now both armies going to bear a beautiful Sidestorm over a bunch, and another Suicide Templar to get a Sidestorm on the Hydralisks in the midst of this. And Stryker, his counter attack opportunity, even though it looked formidable, looks like it is going to get cleaned up. He has another grouping of Hydralisks, but this is now on the other side of the bridge. More Sidestorms dropped, and that High Templar with another Sidestorm is going to make his way across. What are we looking at upgrades? +1. Do we have +2? No, we only have +1/+1 as far as what's left. So it's 3 base versus 3, or so basically 3 base versus 2 base. Stryker is out at that third, so he's got to go for a continuation counterattack. So as long as Semih keeps his backer up, he's already got a massive supply lead. He's keeping the Corsair in the field just in case there was a Mutalisk, because he saw the amount of Mutalisks in that spread. Stryker trying to resaturate at that third to make something happen in the space of this. He's actually got a pretty healthy 41, but Semih not missing a beat. Going to go ahead and grab a 4th, which is a great play in the midst of this. because even if he ends up losing something out there in the field, he can just basically let this finish, drop some cannons, and still be economically ahead as far as the follow-up. Keeping those Corsair active as well. A couple Hydralisks looking for another counterattack. We do have a High Templar that's at least got a Size Storm in the space of this. It's going to go ahead and draw back to wait for that additional wave, and the rest of that army going to go ahead and draw back on this side of the ramp line. Stryker trying to rebuild here at the 3 o'clock, but he's way behind as far as the supply count. He did a bit of a healthy worker count, but Semih just looking real strong now toward the late stages. Stryker's going to make a fight for it, though. One advantage for Stryker, though, is he's got a pretty good Sim City here at the natural expansion. Is able to force a cancellation or a stoppage there at the 9 o'clock, but I don't know that that's going to be to his benefit because he's nearly at half the supply. That's a little bit of an overstatement. He's not well supplied here at all. The observer speed is not finished, so at least there's something to work with. He's got some lurkers midfield, but I don't think he can protect that 3 o'clock and anything near his third with the army that Semih's got to bear with the 40 supply deficit and more units starting to stream out. And Semih starting to push that direction. The Hydrals regrouping, that's just going to make them Size Storm bait. The lurkers sneaky unburrowing from behind and getting swept up and actually bunching up for some decent Size Storm and cleanup otherwise. And now, are there any lurkers left? I don't think there's any lurkers left. So the 3 o'clock is just hoping that it doesn't get scouted right this second. Stryker at least providing some good distraction, but still a massive supply gain. A redrop, very calm play here from Semih, not panicking at all. And just double checking here bottom left with that Corsair to absolutely make sure he knows that he has to presume that there's a 3 o'clock base here. So making his way up, I don't see Stryker holding this. Yeah, there's just not enough. Might go for a plug counterattack, but at this stage, Semih's rolling enough that I think the reinforcements can hold at the ramp line. Looks like he's going to try to envelop, maybe catch some of these High Templar before they're able to drop Storm, which is something. But the base is going to get wiped out. Size Storm dropped, so one High Templar dropped, but the rest of the High Templar stand. The Hydralists trying to push in, but yeah, running into reinforcements there. And you can see Stryker trying to find a gap someplace in Semih's defenses and finding absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Getting crushed effectively on all fronts. And now streaming down, maybe we'll be able to stop the 9 o'clock. We have some cannons warping in. Here's the thing, he pushes the Hydralists, even if he goes for a snipe on that Nexus, he's still going to end up losing the rest of his attack force, and he has no additional bases up. So still at 3 bases. The worker count actually even, but it doesn't matter. Semih's going to have better saturation in a moment. That is a probe transfer making its way to the 9 o'clock. That'll still be 3 bases, but usually Zerg needs to just have more at this stage. Plus 2 weapons. Is there? Have the upgrades kept? Yeah, the upgrades. Semih's been on top of the upgrades. He's steamrolling towards plus 3 weapons. If plus 3 weapons, plus 3 armor finishes, I mean, it's already looking like it's game, but it'll be certainly game at that stage. Stryker's his armies are going to melt in the space of this, and he's kind of already in the situation. He's done great with some army movement scattering around to keep Semih somewhat at bay, but even in the space, and he's trying to redrop that 3 o'clock location in the midst of this. But Semih being very, very patient with this. Oh, a beautiful Size Storm in that Hydralist 9. A pretty decent dodge overall. At least they're able to get a High Templar in the midst of this, but Semih has an absolute brute force here. Honestly, at Neodark Origin, I think it would have already been a GG, but Stryker recognizing how hard it is to get across that bridge line, both directions, and how if you can somehow sneak something out of this and get lurkers out of the line. Is that the only observer? Actually, Size Storm. Whiff of a Size Storm right there from Semih. But he can just walk up to this top line, get another observer out on the field. Might be hunting for one right now. But the 3 o'clock location, distance mining, that shows you where Stryker's at right this second. So distance mining at the 3 o'clock location already to try to stabilize in this. But Semih can go just, if he just moves back, honestly, and gets his armies all hotkeyed up and just decides to A-move everywhere, he'll win the game flat out, is what it comes down to right this second. It looks like he is trying to gather that army, leaving half an army here on that lower ramp, getting the rest of his army to maybe make a push mid-map, is already going ahead and grabbing top right. The Overlord spots it. Looks like we have some Hydralisks exiting the 3 o'clock location to go ahead and engage there. Semih a little bit concerned about potentially a drop or counterattack, potentially. It looks like he's gathering up, just making sure, not sure why these Dragoons are scattering here, just making absolutely sure that in the situation he is, yeah, checking out. He might be like, am I really this ahead against Stryker? But yes, he's at 200 supply. Stryker sitting at 115. Semih doing the calm thing, yeah, moving everything out. Stryker trying to do the best with what little he has. And he's doing a pretty good job considering the lack of observer spread. Here to the south, the observer is starting to make their way in. They're getting a little bit, some lurkers are getting a little bit of benefit across that left-hand side. But once the center is breached, I'm expecting a GG from Stryker because he's not going to be able to hold that third. He's certainly not going to be able to hold the 3 o'clock base is gone. His third is most likely going to be gone in the midst of this. And Semih's just rolling economically and can go ahead and grab top right at his leisure. He's already got that 9 o'clock base up and running. Is now just starting to group up. He's just killing overlords that are floating all over the map. Kind of the problem with A moving. I think he was intending to, might want to even just like move and then let them do their damage. But that 3 o'clock base, Stryker in the red, recognized he lost mid-map control, and that was going to be it. Some great play from Semih, taking a game off Stryker. I have to say Stryker was the favorite for sure, but Semih is starting to close that gap where he's looking more and more like a contender as time passes. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for listening.